get the four of you together to ask you some questions about your upbringing and your childhood and your favorite memories of things that we could pass around to all of our generations so that that would not be a forgotten part of our family. We want to be able to pass down those stories, those memories to our kids. So we're going to start with Janella, since she's the youngest, and her memories will be the easiest, the freshest, the closest to her. So since it's close to Christmas time, we'll start out with some easy questions. You can be thinking about this. What was your favorite Christmas memory growing up?
Janella first?
Janella's starting first.
Okay.
Well, for me it was probably the process we had to go through before we could open our presents. We were a Christmas Eve family. That was very important. We never could understand why anybody would want to do it Christmas morning. So we were a Christmas Eve family. We had to have all the dishes done, and then Mom would lay out all of the baked things, and my favorite things were always her homemade fudge. And Dad always bought that ribbon candy, and we always had ribbon candy. And that would all be laid out, and then finally Mother would say, "It's okay, now we can open the presents." And we had tons of presents under our tree, probably more than anybody. And I know that I would get $1 for each brother, and I would go to Van Engelen's, and I'd buy them each a pair of Argyle socks. I think I did that every year. And but we had all these presents, and I remember I just always thought our tree was so ugly. I was so embarrassed by our tree. And we would just put up all different colors of lights and icicles, and that was what we did. But one memory that just comes to my mind that was not a good memory.
Save some memories for us.
Now, your job tonight is to relax.
I had some memories.
And they're all good.
You already given them. I can't think of any more. When it comes to my girl, she said it all.
That's why you're going to be last. You're going to be thinking of all these. This was the thing about me that I don't know if my brothers experienced this, but I cannot make decisions. It's really hard for me to make a decision. And one year, Sharon got a doll, and I got a doll. One of the dolls had hair on it, and one of the dolls was bald.
Oh,
And
nice.
since I was the picky one, Sharon didn't care. You pick the one you want. I'd pick one, and then I'd want the other one. And then I'd pick the other one, and I'd want the other one. And this went on all night long, and just stirred so much emotion in me. And to this day, I don't know who got which doll, but I can still see those two dolls. And I've looked at them all. Every time I go to an antique place, I look for those $2 heads because I'd like to have them both. Okay. I just could never make a decision.
Okay, Paul's next.
Well, I have to lay a little groundwork. My birthday is December 29.
Oh.
I was also the youngest boy, had 3 older brothers, and I always felt like I was the black sheep or left out. Well, what I remember most distinctly about Christmas was that, we didn't have a lot of money, but Janella's right. I don't know where in the world all those presents would come from, but it'd be stacked high. But each one of us, each year, or every 6 years, one of us would get a big present. And I remember on my 12th birthday, or 13th, I got a shotgun. But the year before that, I ran away from home at Christmas time. And nobody knew I ran away. Because all I got was a pair of socks.
From Janella.
And so, yeah, probably from Janella. And I just felt so sorry for myself. It was a pity party. And so I snuck downstairs, got my coat on, went upstairs, because you could go downstairs in our house with nobody knowing you were there. And I walked out on the street. All I had was I remember I had some smoked salmon. And to this day, I love smoked salmon. But I had smoked salmon, and I started down the street. I didn't know where I was going to go, but I was going to run away from home and never come back again. And every place I went, all my friends, they were having a great time, and so, what are you doing here? Go on, go away. And so I stayed out for about 4 hours and about froze to death. So then I snuck back downstairs, and nobody knew I was gone. Nobody felt sorry for me. Oh, poor Paul. But that's what I remember most about Christmas, except that everybody seemed to get a lot of presents except me. And then they'd say, well, you're going to get some in 4 days because it's your birthday. You're going to get a lot of presents then. But I remember most, not the chocolate, but the cinnamon rolls. Mother made wonderful cinnamon rolls, and we always had those, but we could only have one. You know, you never got enough of anything. But
Following up with those socks, Dad had the old 16mm camera. I can still see the picture going from each one. Whatever we got, you know, and it was several items, and I can still picture in my mind Paul holding up his pair of socks. Remember that? And he's holding, and you just see on his face, we were all happy. And here he had a pair of socks, and he was trying to look like he was happy, but you knew that he wasn't. And I, even to this day, I remember seeing that and kind of get teary-eyed because I knew that that's all he had that time. And other than being his Christmas or his birthday was another 3 or 4 days, I don't know what happened there, why he just got that one.
Well,
But
I remember Mother saying, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. She felt as bad as anybody.
But to see, I can still picture in my mind him holding his pair of socks up.
I'm sure that has affected me the rest of my life.
Okay,
Well,
Myron, is that your
well,
memory?
I agree with again with what Janella said. Our Christmas trees were never decorated very nice because Mom always wanted to string popcorn and do those little paper things where we loop them together to, you know, and she loved the icicles. She would cover them all with icicles, and they would, you know, now they're supposed to hang straight, but these were kind of just all over the place. I think that's what you were referring to. I remember the first time Santa Claus came, we were down on Holly Street, and I must have been probably 7 and or 8. I still believed in Santa Claus at that age, and I don't know if it was Melvin or somebody, if anybody recall who that Santa Claus was, but that we were on Holly Street, and that was the first time, and I thought,
Isn't it Ernie?
maybe it was Ernie, but one of them came in as Santa Claus, and I thought that was the highlight, and we finally had Santa that came to our place, and I was a believer in Santa Claus at that time. The other thing I remember is Ernie sold novelties and in Spokane, and when you do that, you get all kinds of samples, and every Christmas time we get a great big box from Ernie. Uncle Ernie, and I forget now how we were able to pick out what we each got, but there was a method, you know. I know we all didn't dive in, but I don't know. But anyway, that was something that we really look forward to see all these simple little toy gadgets that Ernie gave us. Some of them might have been pencils that advertised the grocery store in Spokane, but those are all always big things that we enjoyed getting. I think everything's been covered. With Artie, I might say one thing. I remember the first Christmas that he was in the Navy, that we had his picture there on the piano, and in all of our pictures that we took, we brought his picture down and held it there. And of course we missed him that first Christmas that he was in the service. So we had the picture of him, but that was it.
Grandma Hessel,
Oh, yeah.
that was our mother's mother. How old was she? She must have been
She died at about in age 83, I think.
83. She always asked me what I wanted for Christmas. I said a silver dollar. A silver dollar would go a long way. I go downtown, play about 5 games of pool. Yeah,
Here comes Julie.
10 cents a game. And, but I remember I mean, presents would be stacked up. I mean, just giant. Where they all come from, amazing.
Did you all carry some of those traditions down to your own family? Has Christmas been now with your family? Do you have lots of presents? Because I know I grew up at our house. Dad, we had tons of Christmas
of
presents, and there was only 3 of us.
Yep.
And did you guys kind of carry that on with your
One thing Mother told me, one thing Mother told me was that when she came to our house at Christmas, she came to our house all the years we were in Moscow. And she said, I wish we would have done our Christmas this way, because we took turns.
Uh-huh.
One person would open the present, starting with the youngest to the oldest, and we'd all sit and watch. And apparently at our house, we must have all just attacked the presents.
Yeah.
She told me she wished we wouldn't have done that.
Same, we didn't, growing up, we didn't have a lot of, I think the kids were all pleased with it, but I don't think we had an overabundance. And maybe later on our kids would answer that question, but we didn't have a lot of, but we had the same thing of taking turns, the youngest and so forth.
Okay. What is your favorite memory of your dad? And then I'll ask you, what is your favorite memory of your mom? Just one. I know you must have a multiple, answer for that, but just give us like a favorite memory.
Okay, a favorite memory of my dad would be when I went to Pasadena College my freshman year. I wanted some new clothes so bad. And I never really had new clothes. All of my clothes were hand-me-downs. And so I was working for him at the Art Center, and we walked over to Stryan's. It was the store in town. It's now the print shop. What's the lady's name?
Darlene.
It's Darlene's print shop. But it was really an upscale dress shop. And so I tried on 2 dresses, and my dad came down, and he wanted to buy these for me so bad, but he knew he couldn't afford it, and he stood there and cried.
Oh.
And he ended up buying them. And I can just see that green dress and that blue dress so well. And then, of course, I felt guilty, but I could tell that he really wanted me to have this.
How about your mother?
Come back. We'll do
Come
all
back.
of Arnold first.
I never really knew my dad very well. But probably the most vivid memory was how he would call us to come and eat, and we wouldn't do it. We'd always be out playing. And then he would stand at the door, and when we came in, he would hit us with his knuckle on the back of the head. And he'd usually get in 2 or 3 swipes by the time we could get past him. And never said a word, just knocked you on the head. The thing that really bothered me about my dad was he loved the young women. And he always tried to flirt with his college students. Am I right about that?
You're right.
You're right.
You're right.
And it used to embarrass me, because this old guy of 45 or 50,
Thanks.
flirting with these young college students, and it really used to bother me because I could see that it would bother my mother. And I really didn't like that about him. I suppose I have some of those characteristics myself now, but those are two things I remember a lot about him. But I don't ever remember him ever hugging me or saying, Paul, I really love you, or Paul, you know, I'm really proud of you. He was a typical German, you know, very...
He took after his dad. Our grandpa Finkbeiner was mean.
Oh.
He'd take two dead dogs, remember they had dogs on the ranch? And he'd take the two dogs and he'd put them nose together, then he'd pinch their hind legs some way, and make them fight. And they would fight each other, unbelievable.
That's our next topic. I know it.
Come on, Dad, remember we used to take the puppies and put them in a sack and throw them down in the canal?
Yep.
Cats.
Cats.
That was typical in those days. They didn't.
Because there was too many
Yeah, they
kittens.
would,
Your turn, Myron.
well, I had a couple real, one, and I'll leave one to Arnie about the bicycle trip, but I'm going to take another approach on Dad, and one that is very positive. I always thought that he was the best speaker and the best preacher that I'd ever heard, and mainly because he was very descriptive from the pulpit, in that he preached from the Old Testament all the time. And I'll never forget his sermons on Jonah, I can't think of the name of the one where the harlot.
Esther?
No. Anyway.
She was queen.
And afterwards, you know, then hearing people say that Dad was such a wonderful preacher and he was so talented, and I was always proud, and I really enjoyed going to church and when he was preaching and doing his chalk talks, and then hearing the people, you know, say all the positive things about Dad and his messages. And right along with that, he was very talented. And of course, somewhere along the line, we'll talk about Mom and Dad, how they were so resourceful. Dad did everything from, I remember he raised orchids in the backyard, in the, what do you call it?
Yeah, in the hothouse.
In the hothouse. He built a hothouse,
It was
raised
supposed to be a
orchids.
swimming pool.
Well, it
We
started
dug
out.
a swimming pool.
Yeah. But he, during this last week in school at the college, it used to be that was tradition, you get married in the old chapel. And Dad was always either married them or he raised the flowers and did all the decorating for the weddings. Of course, then the other thing I remember is students would come over and he'd read their handwriting. And he ran for a senator, and he had businesses, and so he goes on, and then he went out and repaired television sets. And now, after knowing that his salary was what, $800 a year, or $1,200 a year with 6 kids, you knew now why he did all those things, and of course why Mom also was resourceful as far as the cooking was concerned.
Favorite memory?
Huh?
A nice favorite memory?
Well, you didn't say
Arnold's. A favorite?
Vivid
No, you
memory.
said just a
memory.
best memory.
Dad caught mine and I smoking. I don't know what we were smoking. What was it, Indian tobacco?
Yeah, I think about
Did you
it.
have
Kind of Indian weeds or something rolled up in toilet paper. And Dad took us in the living room and he got a couple of cigars and made Myra and I smoke a cigar apiece and inhale. And we got sick. Can't believe how sick we got.
I never heard that.
I was in Shed.
Shed, Oregon.
Shed, Oregon.
Yeah.
How old were you when he caught you smoking?
I must have been in about the 4th or 5th grade.
10 is 8 maybe?
No, 'cause
Because I was 3 in the shed.
we left shed when I finished the 5th grade, because we went to Connell, and I spent 1 year in the 6th grade at Connell. And then another one, which Myron and I had a fight. We were throwing mud balls at each other in the shed, and he was up in this tree. I thought I'd fix him, so I took a rock and I put mud around it.
Oh
And
no.
knocked Myron out of the tree. He came down out of that tree and went screaming to the house. Dad come out, and he was so mad, he grabbed me by the arm, took me in the garage. They had a garden hose, and he took his knife out and cut a chunk out of the garden hose about that, and grabbed me by the hand and whipped me. And Mom was screaming, Arnold, Arnold, you're going to kill him, you're going to kill him. We went around and around in that garage, he's whipping me.
And I remember you were trying to get away from the hose, and they were going in circles like this.
Yeah, and then one time they had a play day at school, and I was a catcher for the softball team, and we lived right next to the school, and went home for lunch, and Mom fixed some oyster stew. And no way I'm going to eat them oysters, so I took the oysters out while nobody was looking, and I threw them under the table on the floor. And pretty soon the coach come in the back door. Doc said, Arnie, we need you. We're starting a softball game, and Dad said, you're not playing until you eat those oysters. So I had to pick him up off the floor. And I ate all, 4 or 5 oysters, choked them down. He said, now you can go out and play. So I went out the back door. Huh?
Did you throw them up?
I don't remember whether I threw them up or not, but I ate them.
Okay, and now about Grandma Finkbeiner. Ella.
I think one of Mother's strengths was she knew that all of her children were very different. And she encouraged them in their talents. And when I was in the 6th grade, she took David and I to the Ashland Shakespeare Festival in Ashland. And that was one of the highlights of my life, and it meant so much to me and to David that we still talk about that. And I'm sure that was really an expensive thing to do, because, to get the tickets to drive over there, the gas. We did have her best friend from high school, I think was the pastor's wife. And I think we stayed with them. But it was just a real memorable.
How old were you, Janella?
I was in 6th grade.
In the 6th grade.
Well, she was the most incredible woman you'll ever meet. I was thinking the other day when Janella's had us over for Thanksgiving, and I was reflecting back to what our Thanksgiving was when we were a kid. And not only would she have the whole family, but she'd have, 4 or 5 college students. And we had this long dining room table. It's now in our house in Meridian. And and then we'd have these benches, and she would fix these meals. It was just unbelievable. And we'd all kind of go in, watch TV or do something, and she'd go in the kitchen and have everything cleaned up in a matter of, 30 minutes or so. And how she could do all those things is just amazing to me. And go out and sell World Book, go out at night. And she'd come back, and some days I didn't sell any. Other days, she'd sell 2 or 3. But she was fantastic. So,
She was really a Proverbs 31.
Well, following up on that, it was, I don't know if it was ironical or just whether it was planned, but nearly every Sunday, there was 12, we'd always count, there's always 12. So there'd be 8 of us, and there'd be 4 students. And for some reason, 12 was a magic number. And we would this would happen 2 or 3 Sundays a month that they would invite students over to eat. And then again, thinking about, you know, money that they were making would be able to do all that. Well, one reason why we were able to eat well all those years was the fact that they were she was very resourceful in obtaining food. For example, I remember going down to the produce shed downtown Nampa. This used to be a great country for lettuce, and some of the produce sheds in the fall of the year when they harvested the lettuce, it would go through the belts, and then the lettuce that was not, you know, didn't have the plump heads, it would go out on a conveyor belt into a truck, and it would go out to a ranch to feed the cows and the livestock. But I remember going down there, and when the lettuce was coming off the belt into the truck, we would pick out the lettuce. That was one thing. Another thing is that I remember going to Emmett and picking carrots that were left over, actually digging the carrots out, and under the garage, we would dig a hole under there and bury these carrots in. And I remember going out the middle of the winter time when there was a foot of snow on the ground, going this way, and underneath the garage pull out these carrots, and they were just as fresh and you know, the middle of the winter as they were when we dug them out in the fall. I can remember, you know, following the potato digger. Of course, people still do that around here, but all of our potatoes came in that way. I remember she would go out during this time of year when they were harvesting sugar beets, and she would get the greens off the beets and bring them in and cook them like spinach. And of course canning. Mom was, I mean, it's a dying art. I guess it's a lost art now, but she was so proud of her canned goods. And again, we'd go out in the orchards and we'd pick up the apples or the peaches on the ground. And I remember she would spend hours and hours canning. And then in the fall, you go downstairs and you'll see, I mean, beautiful quart jars of all kinds of fruit and vegetables. So as far as eating, we always ate well, and we didn't realize that we didn't have that much money, but we always ate well. And then of course, to finish it off with, was on Saturday night her bread. Every Saturday she would make homemade bread, and we always kind of stood around, and when they came out of the oven, you know, each of us had our, we could dig into one loaf and pour on the butter and those things. So for that, those are some of the things that I remember as far as being resourceful. And to this day, when I find here that the salary that Dad got and Mom, you know, with their world books, it was unbelievable that we had all the food that we wanted and we never went hungry.
Arnie?
Well, follow up what Myron said, she'd go down to the produce house or somewhere and get a sack of wheat. Just plain old wheat. Bring it home, I don't know if it was a sack or not, but half a bushel. She'd wash it, boil it. That was our cornflakes in the morning. Just the wheat. They cook it,
Cream of wheat.
eat it. And then I remember one time, well, this was later on, I was in Parma, lived in Parma, she lived with us for a while. We're driving down the road, she said, "What's that, Arnie?" I said, "It's a sugar beet." Stop, 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 stop. Stopped the car, we got a sugar beet. Looked at the car, I said, "Mom, what are you going to do with that?" "I'm going to go take it home and cook it." She brought it home, cooked it, and we ate it. It was awful, you know. We had it for dinner, sliced sugar beet. But,
Well, we have to remember this is the milk.
Oh, yeah.
oh,
We every night 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night, one of us would take turns.
Usually me.
Well, I went several times, we'd ride our bike out about a mile,
Down
out
Holly
to
Street.
Lee's, out Holly Street, to
Lynn's.
Carl Lee.
Lynn's?
Well, Lance one time, and for another several years, Monty Lee's dad,
Monty Lee's
Carl Lee. And we'd go out and he'd be milking. I remember him going out in the little barn, he'd milk, and we'd had our gallon can,
2 of them.
2 of them, and when he finished in his, he'd pour the milk into our gallon can, and I remember the little bicycle we had a little, what do you call over the back fender, and I'd stick it in there and it had a couple hinges, and we'd strap that gallon can of milk, and Mom would take, first thing she would do, she'd let it sit overnight and get the cream off, and she'd take the cream and then make butter of the cream. And of course, while we're talking about that, we might as well talk about the goats.
Goat.
For a number of
That
years,
was my story.
for a number of, okay, go ahead.
We had a goat. And we lived on the corner of Ivy and I'd go milk that goat. I'd get a couple quarts and I'd get tired, so I'd come by the house and I'd turn the faucet on. I'd put half water with it. So
Non-fat.
we had 4 goats.
Well, at Halloween,
That's a lot of
This
goats milk.
milk was whole milk, and so the top, that much would be just pure cream, so we always had whipping cream.
they'd make butter out of it. Yeah. But at Halloween, all the college kids would come over and trick or treat at our house. You know what they wanted?
What?
Any of you know what do you think they wanted? She had a big crock of them out on the front porch.
Dill pickles.
milk?
Dill pickles.
Oh.
But I don't think they were in a crock, they were canned dill pickles. She didn't do crock pickles.
Well, she'd put them in a big bucket, I think, for Halloween night.
That's
They'd come over and
Oh, yeah.
take a dill pickle out. She made the best dill pickles. Never used vinegar. Her formula was carrots and mustard or dill and garlic. But she always said that the carrots reacted the same way to all this as vinegar. So you never had that vinegary taste. Really dill pickles. They were so
Wow.
good.
And Sharon tried to duplicate it, and she said one time, she thought they tasted kind of like it, but they were never as good.
Huh.
Okay, do you remember your parents ever talking about their courtship or how they met or anything like that? Anybody talk about how they met, where they met, that type of a
Do you
thing?
have Mother's autobiography? Because Mother's written a fabulous autobiography.
He was sitting right here, I don't know where it is now.
Oh, this one right here?
Yeah.
No, that's
Oh,
Julie's.
That's Julie's. Well, we got it here somewhere.
What was it, they got married in Connell, and a bunch of Dad's friends kidnapped Mom.
Yeah, that was what they call a shivaree.
Shivaree, they kidnapped her, put her in a car, and went dead. Jumped up on the top of the car.
Well, they put her in a wheelbarrow and whirled her through downtown Connell in a wheelbarrow before they left on their honeymoon or something.
Is that what it was?
That was kind of traditional those days. They called it shivaree, and they would capture, take the bride, and either there's all kinds of horror stories that I've heard over the years. They chained the bride to a bed in a bedroom, or in Mom's case, they wheeled her in a wheelbarrow downtown
Are you sure?
Connell. But it's very sketchy, and I don't fall.
They put sand, Dad had a brand new car, I think.
Yes.
They put sand in the gas tank, ruined the car, but kept them up all night long in this wheelbarrow, and it was not a good experience. But Mother did not want to marry Dad, and he just kept pursuing her and pursuing her and pursuing her. Her brothers did everything they could to keep her from marrying him. And she said she actually went through with it just because she didn't want to hurt his feelings.
Oh.
And I don't think I think Dad really did love her, but I don't think she was ever happy. He didn't treat her well.
I forgot another story. We were coming from Pasco one Sunday afternoon, in the car. You and I were in the back seat, and we kind of got in a fight. And the window down, I took your shoes. I took one of your shoes and threw them out the window. Myron said, Dad, Arnie threw my shoe out the window. Dad never said a thing. Just kept on going. We get to Connell, which is about, I don't know, about 3 or 4 miles away. Get out of the car and Dad says, Arnie, you get on your bicycle and you go get that shoe.
Oh, no.
You'll be in time for church or you're going to get the whipping of your life. And I tell you, I got on my bike and I went out there and I got that shoe and I got back in time to go to church.
So were your parents pretty strict, sounds like, growing up? Who got the worst? Who got the worst?
The what?
Who got the worst of the...
Well, Arnie got the worst, and I got the next. And
Look what he
down-
did.
Yeah,
down-
stories.
Janelle's never had a whipping in her life.
Let me tell you, this whole thing could be rather dicey. We all had the same mother, but we have all had a different father. And David and I had one father. Arnie had one father, and I think Myron had the best father.
In personality, you're talking about.
In relationships.
I kept thinking, boy, this is news. I was first thinking that. I'm going, oh
The
my.
same physical father, but two different men.
Gotcha.
Dog Brian.
Down here. I can tell you something.
I remember, I don't mean to be negative about my dad because he was a great person. I remember bragging about him so often about all the things he could do. When people would say, what does your dad do? I said, well, how much time do you have? You know, because he was justice of peace and he was running an art store, running a Bible store, teaching college, preaching, farming, you know, he did so many things. But he was very cold. I always felt that he liked his students more than he liked his own family.
That's how I felt.
That he spent more time with his students than he did with his family. And especially with, I don't think I ever saw Mom and Dad kiss. You guys ever, have you ever seen her kiss?
Yeah.
You did? Now Myron, when I was growing up, I always wanted to be like Myron. You know, I was in trouble all the time. And I said, why can't I be like my brother, Myron? You know? Because he was perfect. Myron was always perfect. And I think that's why he had a much different relationship with my dad. But I got kicked out of 3 schools. I mean, it seems like all Dad did was send me to a different school. And I know a lot of it was just rebellion. You know, I did not like him. And I didn't like the way he treated my mom. I mean, my mom was, I mean, she was incredible. What she did. I mean, you guys just, you'll never know how much she accomplished in her life. And then Dad would say, he'd get us aside and say, well, you know, I'm putting all this money aside for you, and I've got all these bonds, and when you get to be 21, you're going to have thousands of dollars. He never got a penny. Did anybody ever get a penny?
He did not know how to manage money. He really didn't. And he would go to Boise and he'd come home without talking it over with Mom, and he'd come in the driveway with a brand new car, and she'd say, Arnold, why did you do that? Arnold, we can't afford that. And that'd kind of be the end of it. And he just, and I remember when he was running for all these political offices, I would have to go out and hand the flyers out. And I did not want to do it because I had no respect for him. I didn't believe in, well, I just didn't have respect. And so here I was, handing out these flyers to support somebody that I just had no respect for.
And he was just carrying on, you believe he was just carrying on how he was raised? That your grandfather was just like your dad? I mean,
I
your
think he
dad was
always
just-
wanted to be something that he couldn't be.
And in his defense, he had 6 kids. He had to put money, he had to provide a living, and so he did all of these things, trying to make a little bit here, a little bit there. And so I don't want to make all of that sound bad, because I think he was really trying. He taught
He's a hard
extension
worker.
for the University of Idaho. He taught, he would have classes in the art center. These people would come in and he would just teach all kinds of things. He started into the ceramics business. He built his own kiln. He knew all, he was a self-taught man. And the most amazing thing was when he did that lion for Lions Park, he just went out in the mountains, cut a big rock, brought it home, and carved it into a lion. And it kept getting vandalized and vandalized, so finally he took it down, fixed it up, made a rubber mold of it, and poured cement into it. And it's still down at Lions Park, and when he was in his 80s, he wanted to go and repair that. He went down there, stood on a ladder, painted it. I called the newspaper and had him come to the story, and we have that in our scrapbook somewhere. He just was, you know, very hard worker. I think they both taught us to play hard and to work hard. But I think he just didn't have his priorities set right.
He always had to have the new car. We had a Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
You guys ever heard of the Tucker?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
We had a 1941 Cadillac. I mean, we had the first TV in town, I think.
We did.
One of the first ones, an old K-Part. But he took such great pride, you know, he wanted to keep up with the Joneses, but we didn't have the financial means to keep up, and Mother would have to work twice as hard to keep up with his foolishness. But he was a hard worker.
There's another side that is just the opposite of that. Do you remember Arnie, we didn't have anything. We didn't have a car for a period of time. And Arnie had a Whizzer. He traded it for a Model A.
What's a
Arnie
wizard?
went
What's,
into-
yeah, what's a wizard?
The swing bike with a motor in
Motor
it.
in it.
Oh, like
So
like
when
a moped.
Arnie was, I think, I don't know, did you go on that trip to Wyoming?
No, I
No.
stayed home.
We went, he traded the Whizzer for a Model A, and he put all 5 of us and Mom into the Model A. We went to a revival meeting in Cody, Wyoming.
Yeah.
And I was so embarrassed riding, now this would have been probably 47, 48. We were in this old Model A with 5 kids, Mom and Dad. We'd stop at a restaurant, and everybody get out of the car, and I would hide down in the back seat, and when everybody got out into the restaurant, then I'd open the door and snuck in, because I was so embarrassed that we were in this old Model A. So there, you know, there were a lot of weird things that he did, and now the other, fast forwarding it to later on after we were all gone. You talk to people like Jerry Johnson, the general superintendent, and he always said Dad was one of the most valuable people in the church for a number of years. We used to, in fact, I think Jerry Johnson gave him this name, and I've used it several times. They call him the Henry Kissinger of the Nazarene Church. And literally, remember the old movie or the old TV where the program where they pick up the tape recorder and they're Mission Impossible, and then they'd get the mission and the thing would blow up. Well, Dad was similar in that way. Jerry Johnson would pick up the phone and say, Dad, can you get down to Panama? We need you down in Panama. And he'd go to Panama, and literally the Panama, the church, not only the country was split, but the church was split. And Dad went down and actually put that together in a period of 6 months to 9 months. they sent him to Jerusalem, where he was pastored the Nazareth Church for a year, filling in for a missionary. While he was there, they sent him up to Ireland, to Dublin. Mom said that during church service they'd hear the bullets whiz by, and Dad put together that. And then, of course, his big thing was going to Germany, and I don't know how many years they spent there, 5, 6 years. First he went to the Bible College in Switzerland, and was a professor and the chaplain and the janitor, and Mom was wherever they went, she was the cook. Then they spent years in Germany, and I remember I was alumni director. We had a big alumni function in Castle Robles with all the missionaries, and Jerry Johnson was there. And we were sitting at the head table, and he leaned over, he said, "Myron," he said, "I wish we had some more Arnold Finkbeiners in the wings." He said, "He is truly the most remarkable person that I've ever known, and the work that he did in Germany and around the world is just remarkable." So, you know, you hear these kinds of things, and you know, I guess you can be that kind of person and not still be a great dad, but I think those things need to be told as well.
He used the word troubleshooter, Jerry Johnson said your dad was a troubleshooter.
Well, have any of you seen the carvings he did in Kaiserslautern?
Yeah,
You saw them.
they're just about washed away, they just,
He would hang by a rope in this. Tash, you saw it, right?
No.
You didn't go up there and see it? Well, I went up and saw it, and he did the stages of the cross. There are 7 carvings, and he would work all night long carving these out with a chisel and a hammer, and really well done. And they took good care of it for a while, but then they kind of let the ivy and stuff
You
grow.
still got it, you still make those down at the Catholic Church in them.
today
Oh, yeah?
if you go to the Catholic
St.
Church,
Paul's?
he's got these copper, and
We
that was
looked at
another
it.
amazing thing, he taught himself to make these copper 7 stations of the cross, and they're still there.
Jill and I went there this summer, and we asked the priest, because they're building a new church, and we asked them if they were going to take those, because we wanted them. And they said, "Oh, no, they're the #1 thing we're bringing over."
Okay,
So
we have
tried.
15 minutes left, so this is gonna have to be a real quick thing. Quick answer.
Talk to her.
Tell me your favorite quick memory of each of your siblings. So Janella, you're gonna talk about, give me one favorite memory of Arnie, Myron, Paul, Gary, Sharon. Quick,
Well,
think.
with Arnie, it would be when he came home from Hawaii, from the Navy. We were so excited. Mother made her homemade fudge and her popcorn, and we just could not wait till he came home. And I remember when he walked in the door and he brought the women satin pajamas. And that night there was a closed night over in the old gym, which was when all the societies, the Ollie's, ADP, and so on, had their big annual festival thing. And when we came home from there, Arnie was going to be there, and he just could hardly wait. It was just great.
Okay, say about Myron.
With Myron, it was that Myron was exactly 10 years older than me, and so Myron was always organizing fun things to do. And one of them was to go out to Dry Lake and pull you behind the cart, like cookie bobbing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time I got to go. I just thought I died and gone to heaven because I was so much younger, Mother wouldn't let me go, but this one time she let me go. And I just thought that was so fun. And all of them really, Sunday afternoons was such a highlight for me because they'd all bring their girlfriends home to dinner. And Myron said 12. I used to think it was more like 18. And they would stay all afternoon and we'd play games. And then they'd go to church at night, and then they'd all come back and have leftovers. So, And with Paul, when I went to Pasadena College my freshman year, he was living there. And I had no money again, and he probably didn't either, but he would buy me ice cream cones there in the dining room when we'd go out, and I just thought that was so cool. He'd buy me an ice cream cone. Gary, we had a really horrible episode. Dad was trying to teach me to drive. We were coming home from Franklin Community Church. He had just preached. We got to a stop sign, and I couldn't get the clutch thing all together. And Dad just hauled over and hit me so hard. And Mother was just horrified, and she said, "He will never teach you again." And yet she picked Gary to take me out here, the old Tate's Corner, right at where all right down the road. And David took me out and tried to teach me how to drive.
Oh.
He was just real patient and really nice.
And Sharon?
I was very naive, and Sharon used to try to get me mad by telling me dirty jokes. And I didn't understand it, and she trying to make fun of me. But probably my best days with Sharon were when she was dying. I'd go out every day and spend Wednesdays with her, and we had wonderful talks. And she knew I'd kind of grown soft on Nick, because he came to all the games and I'd visit with him and sit with him, and she wanted to set me straight. And she told me horrible, horrible things, and I'm not going to go into it, but she wanted me to know the truth and all she went through. And she said he would have killed her if she didn't have left. And told me why she became a Democrat, and because she was on her own.
Okay, go quick.
Okay.
Quick.
Janelle,
Uh-huh.
she used to belong to a little club called the Powder Puffs.
Oh, you took my story.
Dog with my head.
Bring the Powder Puffs over to the house. Who all were the girls? There was
Well, they don't know.
okay, well, there's 4 or 5 of them. They'd sit around there, Mom would make you some dessert or some refreshments, and they were the Powder Puffs.
We had pins, we had cards.
Yeah. And Sharon, I always thought later, if Sharon would have been 10 years ago in high school, she could have been an outstanding athlete. She was.
Because they didn't have girls' sports
she was
back
good.
then?
No,
Intramurals.
no. But she was good. I
She
remember
had the most
Myron and I, we rode our bicycles with Dad all the way from Napa. Well, we rode from Napa. The first night we stayed about 20 miles north side of Huntington, along the road. The next night we stayed in,
Haynes,
above
Baker.
Baker. The next night we stayed in LeGrand. But it rained so hard between the Union, and we took the train over the mountains, and we to Pasco, and we rode our bicycles into Cornell. Paul, I thought he was going to be the best athlete of everyone. He played baseball, basketball. What else, Paul? Track?
Track is his thing.
Yeah. And I worked in the sugar factory, and I'd call Paul up and play basketball, ANC. Do this, Paul, do that now, you know. But anyway, that's what I remember about it.
And Gary?
Gary, I used to whip him all the time. Put his washcloths on and rip his head off.
Okay, Myron, quick.
Quick, yeah, well, I some of them have already been said. Janelle, of course, I was, what, 10 years older?
Yeah.
She was always like a little baby sister, you know, and I remember Saturday nights, Mom, and is it you or Sharon? Mom used to spend time curling your hair, wrapping, what do you call it?
Braids.
Nearly every Saturday night we get ready for Sunday, she'd have Janelle dressed up like a little doll. And I remember as a big brother, I just, I just really was in love with her, and that's my little baby sister, and we were all so proud of her being, she was Mom's little toy or whatever. Prissy. Paul, again, I'm not sure whether it's Paul. I don't believe Gary would do this because he was never much of an athlete, although I did coach him. I coached Gary. One year he played basketball, I was his coach, and maybe that's why he never went on. But I remember I coached him, I was, I don't know, a freshman in college and had a little time where I spent with the high school. And I don't know if this was with Paul, but I remember Saturday evenings during football season, we would turn the radio on for a college game, and then we'd go out in the front yard and we'd play football. Do you ever remember those things? Or was that Gary? Or it was either you or
something going on in our front yard.
Saturday evenings with the radio on. We had a little pocket-sized front yard, and I remember I was bigger, and he would hike the ball to me, and I'd have to go on my knees because I was much bigger, and we'd just go back and forth, for a long time out there playing that type of thing. So the other thing I remember about Paul, with this story happens, I've said this so many times, we used to take. It's not like today when the garbage people come by every Monday morning or Tuesday. We collected it all into a trailer. And then once a week on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, we'd come out to the garbage dump, which, by the way, is just in our backyard now where the golf course is. And one time Paul was riding in the trailer. Mom was driving, I was up front, and we hit a bump or railroad tracks right down here. And the hitch came apart, and the trailer turned over.
Oh.
Well, we went back, we couldn't find Paul. And so after we went around and we kind of looked in the barrel pit, where in the world he was. Finally, over here, there's little hands sticking out, and Paul started whimpering, so we knew that he was probably okay. But Mom and I, the two of us, and I was probably maybe 12, 13, or 14, we actually picked up that trailer so that Paul could, then we'd pull him out. So I guess that we had an adrenaline rush or something, but of course we'll always remember that, and I'm sure Paul remembers that. Gary, I guess I remember as being going to the WCTU. Mom was huge in the WCTU.
What's that?
Women's Christian Temperance League. And they had a speech contest, and it was Mom's goal for him to become a diamond. You start out with bronze and gold and pearl and so forth on up to a diamond, and I remember going with Mom and the rest of us to watch and to hear Gary. So he started out very early as someone very in dramatics, and of course he later on and did a lot of great things in the speech area. Arnie, I remember we always slept in the same room together. In fact, I guess there were 2 bunk beds, so all 4 of us in one room. And I remember Arnie coming back in.
We got 3 minutes.
Okay.
1 o'clock in the morning or midnight, and he'd have a tooth or 2 out, or he'd have a black eye, or blood on it. And I knew that he had been in a street fight, right? He and Bill Moore and had a lot of friends. They loved to street fight, and I always thought, I had mixed emotions about it. I thought he was the toughest guy in the neighborhood and in town, and there's kind of, we talk about role models. I often wondered, whether that was the right thing to do, and I always questioned myself whether, about my big brother. I liked him and loved him, but when he'd come in with a broken tooth or a nose or a black eye, I wondered, kind of intimidated me a little bit. But anyway, and then of course the trip the bicycle trip was one that also I remember very well and will never forget.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Well, we can keep going even.
Can't
though-
keep
Yeah.
going, that's all I can get on here though.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
maybe, then I'll wait till the camera goes off, because I want to tell you a story about David,
Okay.
that I don't think anybody knows this story.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'll wait till the camera goes off.
Okay.
But following up on Janella's story about Arnie coming home from the Navy, he spent that whole 2 weeks on the couch in the living room. He went out to the bar somewhere and got in a fight with a bunch of Mexicans, and they almost killed him. And he spent his whole leave, 2 weeks, on the couch.
Remember that? I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Took me down, Chief of Police Dad took me down to jail. And I went through all these mug shots, all these Mexicans. I recognized any of them.
You didn't recognize
They
any?
just about killed me.
Oh, he would. I've never seen anybody so bloodied up.
I don't remember that.
His eyes were both cut or closed. His nose was broken. I mean, he looked a mess. And we'd come by and we'd look at him. Is he gonna live? And mother, she'd just pamper him, take care of him. He spent his whole 2 weeks leave, furlough, on the couch.